I don't even know like how to introduce this because this is like not what I do on my YouTube channel. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's kind of funny. Hey guys, what's up? It's Kinsey and I am here today with Moving Mountains Meg. I don't really know where it's at, just Meg, but
I was like, what?
one of my best friends and the gal that I just completed the John Muir Trail with. So
woo! Mid-trail, you guys, I was like, Mac, can we do like a podcast or something about our trip? And she's like, no, but we can do a YouTube. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So we put up questions or question boxes on our Instagrams and let you guys ask all of the questions. And so today we are here to share the answers to those questions and kind of talk you guys through our journey on the John Muir Trail. So Meg, I'm going to give the first one to you. It says, I'd never heard of the John Muir Trail. What does it involve? So,
okay. Well, Mac is better at, also I call her Mac, explaining like what the JMT stands for and all of that, but I'll share a little bit about the JMT. The John Muir Trail is a trail in California. It's about 211 miles if you're doing it from start to finish the normal way or the way it's like made to do. But we went a little bit different route, which we'll talk about. But truly, it's just a trail through California that starts in Yosemite and then ends you in Mount Whitney, which is the tallest mountain in the continental U.S. And it's just a trail and an opportunity for you to see how beautiful California is and how beautiful, just parks and nature is in the U.S. We saw multiple people that were from different countries that were there, and they were just one guy. I remember he was a fast packer, and he was like, "Welcome to the most beautiful place on the earth." And we were chatting with him, and then, like I said, a few other people, and just so many people are in awe or were in awe with how awesome this trail was, the alpine lakes, the trees, the different terrains. And so, yeah, it's just a trail that is extremely beautiful in the U.S.
Yeah. And what does it involve?
You backpacking through hiking. It's a through hike. And so it's there's a lot of different passes. I think there's like 9 on the actual JMTs, what they say online, but we did like 10 or 11 passes. But it's just you with your backpack, your bear vault, and, you going from just making it along the trail. I don't know how to explain it. Going pass after pass and camping at different locations, meeting new friends, and just taking in, God's beauty.
Yeah. Yeah. So for those of you guys that don't know, the JMT is technically part of the PCT. So if anyone out there has hiked the PCT, they have also completed most of the JMT. So there's a detour that technically takes you up Mount Whitney if you're on the PCT. So Mount Whitney is not technically a part of the PCT. And then, but essentially from Mount Whitney forward, if you're going northbound on the PCT, is the JMT for about 200 miles. The John Muir Trail, gosh, is, I don't even know how to, like you said, don't even know how to explain it. It's just a trail, but it is known as the People's Trail. So it, like Meg was saying, it involves you, a backpack, as many days as you can do 211 miles in. So the thing that blew my mind is, like Meg was saying, we saw a guy that was doing it 7 days. We saw people that were doing it in like 35 days. We saw dads with kids. We saw lots of older adults, probably like 60s, 70s, which blew our minds. We were like, what the heck? Like, I would say 70% of the people that we saw were older, right, Meg?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And so that was crazy to me. But yeah, the next question is kind of how long did it take? So we did it in 20 days. Like we said, there's people that do it 7 or 8 days. There's people that do it in upwards of 30 days. And so we kind of were in the average of what most people I think, completed in, which is anywhere between like 18 and 25 days. And so it took us 20 days. I'll take the next question just because, like Meg said, I did a lot of the planning and the logistics on this. This was kind of my dream trail. I made this deal with myself 5 years ago that the year I turned 30, I would hike the John Muir Trail. And so this was the year that I turned 30, and I just convinced Meg to come along with me so I wouldn't have to do it by myself. But a lot of the logistics and things did fall on my plate. And so the question is, how did you plan it all? So I'm going to kind of piggyback between that question and the next question. So can you share how you got your permits and how you figured out when to do it is the next question. So I'm going to start there and then go to how I planned it all. So permits, if you're going, there's two different ways to do it. You can go north to south, south to north, which include very different permits. And so if you do the standard way, which is north to south, starting in Yosemite, ending in Mount Whitney, that is a lottery system. And so you do kind of have to win the lottery in order to do this hike. And so I believe that permit lottery happens sometime in January or February of each year. And I was not lucky enough, or we were not lucky enough. Meg had not committed quite at this point, but we were not lucky enough to get that permit at that time. And so then, which would have been the ideal way to do it. But we went for the second option, which is to go northbound, which just requires that you log into recreation.gov 6 months before the date that you want to do it and buy essentially concert tickets. So they go online at like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and it's a race to see who can check out and get them in their cart first. And so I did that for about 7 days before getting them. But I did know that I wanted to start sometime end of August, early September. The reason for that is the John Muir is a pretty populated trail, especially with PCT hikers on it. And so early summer, which would be July or August, is usually a really busy time for the John Muir Trail. It is also buggier. It's hotter. Me and Meg talked multiple times about how we can't imagine on the hot days it being any hotter, and it was only like high 60s. Mm-hmm. And so I think just weather and amount of people on trail was kind of the deciding factor for the timeline that we picked. However, doing it in September, as we'll talk about a little bit later, it can have its negatives, as in it is colder at night and there is a possibility for snow. So you have to kind of weigh those pros and cons in your mind and what works best for you if you are thinking about planning. So really, once we got the permits, I went into planning mode. I made about 4 different itineraries of how kind of just laying it out and seeing where we wanted to go, how many miles we could fit in each day. And just looked at a map, looked at a couple different maps, compared far out to Garmin, to books to see like the best places to camp, and just kind of made a course from there. And so that is how we've got our permits, planned it all. Transportation, getting to and from the JMT, there's a lot of answers and questions to that section. If you guys are thinking about doing it, go look up somebody's video about that, because my husband took us to the drop off and dropped us off at the beginning. He picked us up at the end. We did not have to fly into any airports, take shuttles, take buses. That's a whole logistical nightmare that I did not want to deal with. And so I said, Benjamin, can you please take us and pick us up? And so that's kind of the basics of the planning. So, question number 5 was, did we go north to south? We did not. Like I said earlier, we went south to north, which is what added miles to our route. So we did not do 211 miles. We did how many, Meg?
Like 252.
Yeah. So the permits that we got, we had to start at Horseshoe Meadows, went up Cottonwood Lakes, about 25 miles-ish south of Mount Whitney, joined up with the trail, hit Mount Whitney, and then kept going north. So we did do a Nobo JMT. Meg is the Is it difficult to get off course, or is it decently marked the entire way?
Real quick, I wanted to say it was cool to go northbound though. Like, sure, it would have been nice to have it that way, but like there was less people doing that. And then whenever we would see people, they were like, oh, no way. You know, like that's cool. We haven't seen that many people doing that. It was not difficult to get off course at all. There was so many signs that we would see JMT this way, PCT, whatever. Also Mac had like downloaded all the maps, of course, you want to be prepared, but no, it's very, we were on a trail at all times. Sometimes, sure, it was rocky and, it's hard to see, but no, it was very easy to stay on course and on the trail.
Yeah, I think, and if you're aware of what is on the JMT as well, whenever you're doing your research, the signs may say like Purple Lake. It may not say like JMT, but if you know that the Purple Lake is on the JMT, then you know that that's the right way to go. So, didn't always say JMT, but I would agree with Meg that it was pretty easy. So like I said, I kind of talked about the route already. That was the next question. We started Horseshoe Meadows, Cottonwood Lakes, up Mount Whitney. We did not do any like day trips, offshoots. We did pretty much from there the standard John Muir Trail. Now towards the end, we did take a couple detours. We did the Clouds Rest detour in Yosemite, and we did the Half Dome detour in Yosemite as well, which added a few miles. But for the most part, we stuck on the JMT. I'll give you this one, Meg, because you asked about it before we started. Did we wild camp?
So I don't necessarily know what that means. I think it means just camped, without having a spot assigned or whatever, like a permit or whatever. And there were spots along the trail that were like camping this way, and you could just see people had camped there. So we did do that. I don't think there were any nights, were there, Mac, that we were like just made up our own camping spot? I don't believe.
Yeah, no. We camped wherever it looked like somebody else had camped, but there was no like bathrooms most nights. I think there was only ones whenever we were at like VVR and MTR.
At Resupplies.
But there was no like designated camp places with bathrooms and showers or that sort of thing.
We did have a few nights where we weren't able to like use our stakes for our tents. So we had to do Big Rock, Little Rock, which was hard, but we've done that before in the desert, so we knew what to do.
Yeah. I will say camping spots were, it was hard to find some flat ones or not rocky ones. The Sierras are known for being rocky. And so, stakes were a little challenging, but we were able to make it work, and we slept in a tent every night. We did not, this is a way to interpret that question, Meg, I guess. We did not cowboy camp any of the time. So we did sleep in tents. We did not cowboy camp. I don't know. I don't know what this question, I'm kind of with you. I'm like, if we're talking about maybe someone that's from another country, like they usually do like you've done in Annapurna, hut to hut. Yeah. And so we wild camped, but anyways.
But we met somebody at one of our resupplies that up until that point had cowboy camped every night, which is just wild to me because it wasn't cold the first 13 days, but it was pretty chilly.
Yeah. Yeah. So segue, Meg, from that, talk to us about the weather. Tell us what happened on the trail.
Oh my. So I say like our first 13 days because that was like a turning point for us in the weather. Obviously heading north, we're getting colder because we started in the south. So our first, like Mac had said earlier, we were talking about how we cannot imagine doing it at a different time with it being hotter because truly, I mean, this is my own fault. I like had sun blisters at one point because I was being stubborn and didn't want to put on my sun shirt because it was so hot. Mac had them on her hands. Like the sun was aggressive. And so the first 13 days we were hot besides one day where we were right after we had gotten over a pass. I think it was maybe
Forrester.
Yeah. Forrester Pass. There was a storm coming and we knew that. And we had gotten over it, gotten down, and then it started like raining, hailing, snowing, weird stuff. So we like hid in the trees for a little bit, then it passed. But besides that, first 13 days were like so hot. And then we get to our last resupply at VVR. And they're like, the snowstorm's coming in. People were bailing, getting off the trail. And we were like,
everybody
no,
was
we
bailing.
are doing this. Like, we'll just wait it out and we'll just add miles if we need to, to other days. We waited it out. Should have, we thought it was good to go. And then we get out there later that day, starts snowing, like snowstorm. We had to put up our tents in the snow. That was the first night. Then Mac and I started sleeping in the same tent together. And then we didn't even make dinner that night. We were just sitting in our tents freezing because like everything's wet. We did boil some like chicken broth and we shared that with some noodles and like just like 8 bars because we were in our tent, you're not technically shouldn't do that for bears. And one point, well, thankfully we had hot hands. We brought those, like we thought I had brought those. But at one point we were just like so just confused, like what in the heck is this weather, And I was so cold, Mac was so cold, so wet. And I look at her, I'm like, are we gonna die? And she's like, no, we'll be fine. Which I knew we would too, but I was just like, I want this moment to pass. Like it is horrible. Like snow is starting to pile up on our tent. We have to keep hitting it. It's on the ground. It was wild. So that happened. And then I think the next day it rained. So like all of our stuff's wet. Then I think we had like an okay day, like no sun, but just like, overcast. And then the next day, another snowstorm. We had just gotten over our last pass. What was that one?
Donahue.
And it just starts coming down. It's a winter wonderland.
Through a winter wonderland.
We're like singing Christmas songs. We're like, this is insane. And Mac, her shoes aren't Gore-Tex, so we had to like take a little break. And like honestly, we both had raincoats, and thankfully we had our in our Z-packs, our backpacks, our liners to keep our things dry. But our raincoats were just like getting really wet, and we finally made it to camp, and then it ended up like being sunny that day, or at the end, wasn't it? So we that was our last snowstorm, but it really truly was crazy, and it was really pretty, but it was also like, goodness, like, is this gonna keep happening? Like this is, and it was funny because like day maybe 11 or 12, right before we got to VVR, we're like, gosh, this is just so fun. Like we're having blast. Like the weather has been amazing. Like, oh, this is great. And then it's like, dude, the weather turns, it just changes the whole vibe of things. And we kept talking about how we have like so many different chapters of this 20-day trek because of all the emotions, the weather changes, the body feels, like all the things. So,
yeah. Well, and the weather like happened it happened at the wrong times. So like, for example, we had a 0-day planned at VVR. We stayed the night. And that was the night that the weather was supposed to hit. And then we were supposed to, it was supposed to kind of be overcast the next day. So the storm didn't hit that night. We're like, oh, we're good to go. And then the storm hits like at 5:00, which is when all of it was supposed to be over.
Right.
And so it was just like, it kept throwing us for these loops. Cause like, oh, the storm isn't going to happen. It's 5:00 and it hasn't come. And that was when it was supposed to be over. And then, we just kept getting these like little teases of like, oh, it's going to be okay. And then, it's just wild.
Come back around.
Super blessed for, I would say 75% of the trip, if not more, was good weather. I'd say average temperature was somewhere in the high 60s most days. Temps at night were anywhere, I'd say on average 35 to 45 on all of the other days. But that night that it did snow a good bit, we woke up and our water bottles were frozen, and it was definitely like, I think there was 2 nights where it was below freezing, like in the 20s, for sure. And then, like Meg said, we had agreed whenever we decided to do this to sleep in our own tents, bring our own tents. But we did say, like, if it gets cold or if, we feel like it's going to be a really cold night, we'll sleep together. And so starting like night 13, we slept together. And then at that point, we just kind of kept it going the rest of the time because we actually figured out that we have a little bit of fun in our tent at night. So we just kind of kept it going. I'll give you this one too, Meg, but I'll piggyback on it, but want to hear your answer first. Are you happy with the 20-day timeline, or should you have done more or less days?
So we talked about this quite a bit actually on the trail. We saw a lot of people that were like doing it around 14, 15 days. We did see some that were like fast packing, I would say, 7, 8, 9, which is like, no, absolutely not. And then we did see some people that were like 28, 30 days. And so I do think we chose the right amount of time. In the moment while we were out there, it's like, gosh, I wish we didn't have to rush past this lake and we could stay here a day, And so it's hard to say because truly, I don't know if my body could have like kept going. Maybe, I'm sure I could have done it, but I think we did a great amount because at the same time, the longer you're out there, like, the more it's going to be then harder transitioning back. And it was already a hard transition back to work and like connecting and, all of that. I would have liked to have more days, maybe, like I said, to spend some time at the lakes and just, it's like every morning we wake up, we're like, okay, got to get going. We're on a mission. We have this many miles. We got to do that, And so, yeah, I would have maybe liked to chill and just like swim in some of the lakes those first 13 days. But at the same time, being out there 25, 30 days, that's also a long time. Like, we would have made it, maybe needed more showers, more resupplies, obviously, all of that. I think it was a good amount. And the mileage per day, I think we were averaging around 14, 15 with around like 3,000 feet elevation gain for us and like our, the physical shape that we were in. It was definitely manageable, doable. Would not have wanted to do it any quicker, but maybe added like 2 more days.
Yeah.
Just to visit and chill and, Yeah. Because as much as I kept saying like, this is a vacation, from work and whatever, that was a tough vacation for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I would not have liked to do it in any less amount of days. I think 20 days was already felt fast. It felt a little rushed at times. And granted, if you were doing the standard JMT, you guys, also have to think we had 50 extra miles. And so I think that for us, it seemed fast. I think there's a lot of times I would have liked to, slow down, stay, and just take a little bit more time. So I totally agree with you on that front. And just, we would have felt better about hunkering down maybe more for the storm. Because then it's like making up 15 miles over the course of, we only had, so many days left. It was not, didn't seem fun. Mm-hmm. So totally agree with you on that one. And I think, truthfully, I feel like I could spend a year on the John Muir Trail and probably still not be able to like see it all in the way it deserves to be seen. But I think 20 days plus is good, where you feel like you can see everything, you feel like you can enjoy it, you don't feel rushed, so on and so forth. But that also depends on your skill level, how fast you can hike uphill, how fast you can hike downhill, all the things. But yeah, food wise, we would have, we had a hard time fitting 7 days of food in our bear canister. So if we would have pushed days on any other sections, I don't know food wise, but yeah, anyways. Okay. So next question, from time, money, gear, etc. What does it take to make the John Muir Trail happen?
So obviously, time-wise, you're going to need that time off of work. And that was one of the reasons a lot of the people that were on the trail we're doing it in a shorter amount of time. They're like, this is all I could get off work, So time in that sense, giving yourself enough time to get there, make it happen. Gear, Mac and I both, we didn't necessarily like buy a whole bunch of new things because we do backpack a lot. But you're going to want to invest into, if you don't already have, lightweight, ultra light things, because even us on the trail, people were like, holy moly, I can't believe like you're carrying that much weight. And like, truly, like we have all of the ultralight things in regards to a tent, sleeping pad, backpack, like
quilt.
bear ball, quilt. Yeah. Like, and it still just adds up. So it's like, had we not, like, I can't even imagine how heavy our things would be. But don't feel like you are, if you're somebody who like is starting from nothing, you don't have to buy things brand new. Go to used gear places or shop the like REI garage sale or look on Marketplace, like those sort of things. So I can't give you like a firm, like it costs this much money, because it just depends what you purchase. But it is worth it if you are, wanting to get into the backpacking world and so on. I mean, Mac and I both have done backpacking trips prior to having ultralight things, and like, we're never going to go back because, one, we already have the stuff now. Two, it just makes the world such a difference in how your body feels. And I was actually talking to, I never even told you this, Mac. I was talking to Haley about like our shoulders hurting and just like, some of those days. And truly, like, I think our packs were like to the max of what they could handle.
Yeah.
Weight wise, but that's just because we were, being bougie and wanted to bring our camera gear and all of that, which is worth it to me. But, so yeah, we'll never go back because the ultralight is the way to go. And if you guys need Rex, Mac and I both, can give you those. I think we're going to even talk about what gear we have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think just piggybacking on that, if you have backpacking gear, that's all that you need to do the John Muir Trail. There are, like Mike said, I don't think there's anything we bought specifically for the John Muir Trail, maybe except for our bear vaults.
Bear vaults, yeah.
Because I have a bear vault, but I don't have the 500. And so that was something specifically that is a requirement. But I would say like between food, resupplies, like all of that. I mean, I would say that, we probably both spent out of our pocket for, food and getting there and all of that, like at minimum $500, like for just that. And then, but we did see girls on the trail. It blows my mind, but saw girls on the trail that didn't send themselves any food. They didn't do anything. They just used hiker boxes, which we can talk about when we get to the food section, but hiker boxes to supply their food for them. And so for them, they probably did it just transportation to and from getting to California. And so they didn't have to mail resupply boxes, which costs, $30. And then you got to pay $40 to pick it up from VVR or $90 to pick it up from MTR. Like some of those things can get expensive, but in my mind, I spend way more money in my everyday life than I did on trail. And so, also, VVR, though, if y'all are going, is expensive, but it's so worth it. And it was like one of our favorite parts of the whole trail. But everyone was like, yeah, and I spent too much money there. And I'm like, I mean, I knew I was going to spend $200 and some there, but and we didn't even get a room, but just showers, laundry. They have just this huge plates of food, like. And then you get there and you like want chips and you want the things that you haven't had for days, and you got to pay for the ferry and all of that. So, but at the end of the day, like people are like, hiking is so expensive. It's like, yeah, it is if you don't have the gear, like, but how often do you go out to the bar and spend $50 or go to a restaurant and spend $50? Like going out backpacking and you buy a $10 or $12 freeze-dried meal, like you're probably better off. So anyways, that's a little bit on money, gear, what it takes to make it happen. So resupplies, kind of getting into the food section of this. How'd you set them up? So like I said, I set up our route and kind of just made our route also knowing, where we were thinking about resupplying. We had to pivot our resupplies a couple times in the planning process because doing it in September is also later season. And so there's closing dates for certain places. And this year, you guys go look at my resupply video. I'll link it. But I made a whole video about the resupply process for the John Muir Trail. We used an unconventional resupply on our first resupply, which was a friend hiked in a resupply to us. And so that was a huge, huge, huge blessing so that we didn't have to go down Onion Valley. And then we resupplied at VVR. And that was it. We had 2 resupplies. We did dig some things out of some hiker boxes and switch some of our food at MTR, but we stopped there, but we did not resupply there. And that's a very common resupply place. So if y'all want to know more about that, I'll just link my other video. But Meg, all things food, what did you eat? What did a typical day on trail look like for you?
So breakfast, we ate oatmeal every single day. I'm over the oatmeal. We both are over it like day 3, the consistency. But we got Kodiak protein oatmeal, which is really great. Mac and I both then would add like chia seeds, PB Fit. I brought like my adventure recovery. So added that, had coffee. Lunch, we would switch on and off every day to have either a wrap with tuna or pulled pork or chicken, something like that, with like a Snickers or, some type of bar. And then we would do, what is it called, Mac? Wet or
cold soak?
Cold soak. We would cold soak. Mac brought this Talenti jar, like from ice cream, plastic jar, and we would put a pack of ramen in there and then cold soak it. We would do it in the morning and then get it would be ready for lunch. You put water in there and then it's ready to go. We would add like Chomp bars or Epic bars or Folsom Farm beef bars to that, or not bars, sticks. So that would be lunch. And I love those. I literally am like, I'm going to eat this in everyday life. That's what I told Ben after.
Yeah.
And then dinners. And then of course we'd have like, the stingers and Nerd gummy clusters and Scandinavian swimmers in our pouches, our side pouches, hip pouches. And then for dinners, we had just a whole bunch of different dehydrated meals from Backpacker's Pantry, Right on Trek, Mountain House, Trailtopia.
I mean, any brand you can think of, ReadyWise, any brand you can think of. Like, truly, I think you ate Pad Thai, Mountain House Pad Thai twice.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing that was duplicated. Like, every meal. Oh, you had that curry.
Coconut curry.
Peak refuel.
Peak refuel. I love that. Like, I also want to eat that in everyday life. Yeah.
So you had 2 of those and 2 Pad Thais. But nothing else was repeated. For dinner.
We had it was like, we would like joke. We would like tell Ben, like, I don't know if he asked, like, what'd you guys talk about? Every day on the trail, we'd be like, okay, what's for dinner? What's for breakfast? Like, we'd get excited about what we're eating.
Yeah. And then we had like a warm beverage in the evening time. So we brought tea or chocolate element or something like that. Yes. To have bone broth packets to have as a warm beverage, which I thought was a huge game changer.
100%. It was like dessert. We were looking forward to it. And I also now do that in everyday life. I got the Throat Comfort. Was it Throat Comfort? Yeah. Sleepy time tea and chocolate element. Okay.
So is the curry, your peak refuel curry, your favorite meal that you had?
Yes.
What's your least favorite meal that you had?
I don't remember the brand, but I think I don't want to name drop them.
Well, it's fine.
I can't even remember. It was the one that we found at that expo, I think.
Oh, okay. Which is crazy.
Because that was your favorite.
Okay. Yes. And so it's a newer brand. Oh gosh, I don't even know what it's called. I'll put it in the comments, or put it in the description. But so Meg got like But you also are like, okay, clarify. Meg is like dairy free. And so a lot of meals that she has to go look for are vegan, or there's something weird about them because they're not made for just the normal hiker. And so you picked a weird one to begin with. It was like chicken.
It had corn.
A low, I don't know, not a low. But anyways,
I'm going to find it.
Long story short, so we bought two. We went to Overland Expo. There's a brand new brand we had never seen. I bought a meal. She bought a meal. That meal I had night one, and it was, I don't know if I could say it's my favorite. It was my second favorite, but was my second favorite meal that I had on trail. And it was like brisket tacos, and it was phenomenal. But then Meg got one, and it was just a weird one and not very good. It was also really spicy, didn't you say? That was why you didn't like it.
Didn't stick well or sit well with my belly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and then there was a jambalaya one that I didn't love either.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. My least favorite, and this is how you know, like, it's not necessarily the brand, it's the food, because I am a huge fan of Trailotopia. And my favorite meal that I had was chicken pesto pasta from Trailotopia. Yeah. And my least favorite meal was, there's a word I can't pronounce, but it's some kind of pepper. It's like Szechuan pepper, some sort of pepper. Like stir fry, and I hated it because I don't like whatever that spicy pepper is. So that was my least favorite, most favorite. It's called Lux Fly Base Camp.
That's what it is?
The brand of that you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm still just trying to find
So my least favorite and most favorite are from the same brand, Trailotopia. Meg's Peak Refuel, Lux Fly.
Say the dessert.
Oh yeah, and then always on every trip, I bring a Trailotopia Triple Berry Crisp. And no, y'all, I am not sponsored by Trailotopia, but I think I should be. Okay, if y'all are like, girl, could you sell it hard enough? I'm not selling nothing. Okay, I just love it.
Good.
But Triple Berry Crisp, we had the day we summited Whitney, and that was delicious as always. Okay, Meg, how were you able to balance nutrition, calorie intake with so much day hiking or so much daily hiking and climbing? Because I feel like you did this better than I did. You brought like things for this.
Well, I was just going to say, I am a foodie and I need food for fuel. Like food is fuel, you know, and my body just needs a lot more food than I feel like snacks. Yeah. Than like a lot of my friends like you know, that I've hiked with and such. And so we did a good job of, obviously Mac lives in Utah and I live in my van wherever I'm at. And so we had to communicate via FaceTime as she's sending off the resupplies and just getting our food ready because I was like gone most of the summer with work things. And so we would, she would get it all like, hey, this is for a day, this is for the day, whatever. But I feel like I brought a lot of high protein bars that helped with that. I also brought like multiple for each day, like double LMNT sticks or these like electrolyte tablets from REI to just ensure that I was getting enough. I also, after our resupply, when we got to the first, it wasn't a resupply, it was a MTR, the hiker boxes, like I could tell I was like low on fuel. Like I needed like double the protein at lunch than I was having, so I got extra stuff there. Obviously the more that, food you're carrying, the heavier your stuff is. But like when we got to our first resupply, we like weighed ourselves and I had lost like 7 or 8 pounds and I like could tell like I need to be eating more, to get up and over these mountains and such. So I don't know, Mac, well,
you brought like emergency and you were taking like vitamins every day and you were, I just feel like you were maybe drinking or eating in pill form, like more vitamins and nutrients and things than I was in that regard. And I will say at one point we did question if Meg was going to run out of snacks. Like that was because she's like, I'm hungry. And I'm like, well, you're going to eat your bar for tomorrow then.
Yeah, definitely. And like at the end of the trip, I had Mac had like way more food left than I did. But yes, I also just like know my body, and because of the traveling and like things that I've been doing, like, I know that like I need to have my protein, like shakes or whatever recovery. I have these like vitamins that are just, zinc and magnesium and all the things, vitamin C to help. Cause I think I like also started the trip with like a sinus infection of some sort, just like had a lot of snot issues.
Luigi, are you going to tell them or am I?
You are. So yeah. I feel like there was one more thing that I was going to say that I brought. Now I can't remember what it was. Oh, the vitamin C pat. Like, yeah, like we're talking about. I would put those in my bottle. And then also just like being on top of, I know this wasn't like part of the food or whatever, but being on top of my like pain, like ibuprofen, knowing, okay, my knee, I'm going to run out. Like, so I sent some for the resupply, knowing that I need to keep up on that or my knees are not going to make it, sort of thing.
Yeah. I think it's important to say, like, with this, definitely bring food that's like nutritious, bring food that's going to fuel your body. Don't bring a bunch of junk. Like, yes, we did eat junk that we don't normally eat, but like, I feel like we balanced it with really good things. Because some of the junk is high calories and that's what your body needs. And, that's okay. But like, also know that I'm not going to say I don't know that anybody has ever, but I would question if anybody has done this trail and not lost weight or done like a big trail and not lost weight. Like, I think that's just part of it. Like, there really isn't a way to replenish as many calories as you're eating. But whenever we got to places like VVR or at Reds, like we did, stuff our faces with burgers and fries and like, we were hungry girls, but like I lost, by the end of the trip, I think I weighed myself. I think I lost 7 or 8 pounds. I have a friend who was 2 weeks ahead of us. She said she lost 13 pounds on the trail. Like,
I was going to say that one guy that we saw, he was like, I already know I'm down 15 pounds. And he was only, whatever. Yeah. But we also look at when we were choosing our meals, because we got so many meals to start with, which ones are high in calorie, that looks really yummy, but maybe it doesn't have the most calories.
And tomorrow's way harder or whatever. So, yeah. So how the heck did you eat enough food when it had to fit in your beer canister? I'd say it's what we're talking about. You have to pick nutrient dense food that is high calorie, low weight. There is a way to get around the bear canister though, if you do need to pack more fuel. So like the first 10, maybe 8 days of our trip, every place we camped had bear boxes. And so if you plan your route accordingly and you can put your extra food in bear boxes, if you camp at a place that has a bear box, then not everything has to fit in that bear canister. So just make smart decisions, nutrition, calorie dense food that weighs less. And watch my video. I don't know. This is what we brought. It's our only through hike that we've ever done. So we're not professionals, but you could at least see what we packed. Okay, Alec, I know who asked this question. Did you cold soak at all? All we cold soaked was our ramen noodles. No cold soaking, but were we ever close to running out of food? No, we were never in a dangerous situation. We were never really close. We did, like I said, say, we would love to have more snacks and more food. Like, we definitely could have used more food, but we were never close to being out. All right, that's it for food.